Chapter 2. Karkat, freeze like a tool. You are Karkat Vantas. You are standing frozen in the dismantled remains of what was once your meal preparation block, and there's a green-blooded Thrash-Executioner prostrate in front of you. You say, inching back until your shoulder hits the thermal hull's door.
Lower than the lowest,
intones the young Thrash-Executioner, his voice betraying just the slightest hint of tremulous fervour, and you want to roll your eyes despite the discomfort that's settling heavy in the pit of your stomach.
Higher than the highest.
Stop,
you say, and find yourself raising both hands in a placating gesture before it even occurs to you that he might take offence to being interrupted.
Look.
You hesitate, the juice box sloshing as you move your hand.
Don't, okay? Just, you don't have to say all that shit. It's way too fucking long.
You press back against the door when the Thrash-Executioner raises his head. He's young, probably part of the newest training batch, yet to set off the planet. But he's looking at you with wide, adoring eyes, lips parted in a tiny little smile, and it's just plain embarrassing.
So,
you interrupt the awkward silence.
Why are you here? What do the geezers want?
But suddenly you remember that, no, the geezers would never send someone to you in plain sight. They were all bugfuck bonkers, but they had a method, and they'd never put your location at risk like this.
You were discovered,
says the Greenblood, lowering his head back to the floor almost mournfully. And you fucking knew it, but it still comes as a shock.
You were spotted by a sea dweller during a moment of communion.
Great and almighty think-pang hemorrhaging fuck, is that what they call it? Seriously?
And my unit was sent to cull everyone in your hive and near it.
A strangled moan comes scratching out of your throat. It might be a curse, but you really can't tell through the sudden, high-pitched keening in your articular channels. The juice box topples out of your numb fingers, and you grasp your head with both hands, pressing your back even harder against the thermal hull, because the world suddenly started listing sideways.
But your Lucis sent out a warning and most escaped in time,
says the Greenblood, still staring intently at the floor an inch from his sniff node, and your body spontaneously sags down like a sack of bricks. Your blood pusher thuds against your articular sponge clots, and you blink back the sudden burning in your eyes. It's probably safe to cry in front of this guy, but you'd still rather not. You take deep, steadying breaths. That's what the flag meant. Your Lucis managed to escape in time. It was out of the hive and safe, somewhere else. You'll have to get that card back and see if there was anything more to it.
My commander personally combed through every block of your hive for passages,
continues the Greenblood. You really wish he'd stop talking with his nose pressed against the floor. The grovelling always makes you uncomfortable.
When he was done, I was ordered to await your arrival while my squad searched the surrounding hives.
You nod to yourself and rest your forehead against your knees. Now that the mass culling-induced spike of horror has diminished, you're starting to feel pretty damn panicked about your own situation. You can't step out of your hive because it's most likely surrounded by hungry little eyes, and your neighbours are probably having their own living quarters ransacked even as you sit here. And woe be to any who couldn't escape in time. You still have the apparently undiscovered passage behind your hull, but no. Going back to Gamzee, or to anybody else really, is out of the question. Anyone who knows you is a target. Your one remaining choice is to crawl into the followers' catacombs, where the wrinkly old squatters will attempt to spoon-feed you their religious bullshittery forever, and despite the very real danger you're facing, you are not looking forward to it. But you're looking forward to being culled even less, so you'll just have to endure their constant scriptural bickering until they think you're ready to stroll out and proselytize to the peasants, somehow causing the apocalypse. You're not looking forward to that, either.
So,
you mumble, trying to sound a little more forceful or messianic, or at least less like a terrified wriggler and failing miserably.
What now?
You will be sheltered in the Dark Hive,
says the other troll.
The Grand Elder has planned for this eventuality, and after my body is found...
Your what?
You choke out in a burst of spittle. The Greenblood shoulders twitch, and it almost looks like a flinch.
After it is found, you will be sent to where the Empire can't reach you.
he continues, as dispassionately as if he were speaking of leaving behind a scrap of cloth. When he goes on, though, his voice has just the slightest edge of urgency.
Nearly all passages have been found, even the one you came in from. You were expected back, and I'd be culled anyway for failing to apprehend you. But planting my corpse will lead the Empire into believing we have a fearsome ally.
That's a bullshit plan!
You spit out, jumping to your feet in a surge of angry energy, your previous terror forgotten.
What the hell are those bastards thinking? Isn't it enough that all my neighbors are now in the culling row? You have to add your own color to this shitty murder picture? All to make the High Bloods think we're stronger than we actually are? This is the most bones-kickingly awful plan I've ever had the dubious privilege of having my auricular sponge clots assaulted by!
The Greenblood raises his head at your outburst. His eyes meet yours, his pupils dilate, and then he slams his face back into the cement with a dry thud. You pointedly do not think of it.
Look,
you say, squeeging the bridge of your nose.
Just forget the shitty plan and come along with me. You're already
You hold back your distaste for the word.
a follower, so you can just, I don't know, hide in the catacombs with the others. It'll suck hoof beastie, yeah, and you'll be surrounded by scripture forever, for which I can't even begin to apologize, but at least you won't be dying for the hell of it.
You watch as the older troll's shoulders shake, and his hands tense against the floor, and he turns his head just very slightly to and fro. God, he's squirming. Fuck, what's there to be so torn about? Unless this poor kid also dreamed of being a Threshercutioner his whole life, and doesn't want to live forever in hiding either, in which case, he really should just chop off your head and get on with his life, and you can't believe you're actually thinking this. You're just really fucking sorry for this kid. You have no idea how new believers are converted, but it must involve an awful lot of manipulation you just don't think you're okay with. But suddenly the young Threshercutioner sits up on his heels, back straight, shoulders squared. He stares straight into your eyes, and the fucker was actually crying, his face blotched with green, but he's smiling, and it's a good sort of smile. It's actually a pretty brilliant sort of smile, and you find yourself tentatively smiling back.
I won't die!
He says, voice cracking high as a wriggler's, and you freeze until his shoulders finally sag.
But you still need to leave.
He adds,
And we can't be seen together.
Oh,
you let your own shoulders sag in relief. It seems this guy's willing to talk with you, not just second coming you, and that's a welcome change.
so what's the plan?
He spontaneously produces a ton of capture log cards and places them carefully on the floor in front of you. You've always hated the laying shit at your feet thing, but when he sits back, he's still staring directly at your face without fear of your sufferingness, and smiling that small, undecipherable little smile. You crouch down to examine the cards and... oh my fucking god! The top one is an array fetch modus. Your feelings must be written all over your face, because the other troll grins shyly and hunches into his shoulders like he's unsure if he's allowed to witness you being Siladex inept. You try not to grin back as you empty it out, except you need to hack your thrice-be-damned Siladex before you can eject anything. Oh, fucking course! You promptly give up and resign yourself to holding a handful of encryption modus cards mixed with a fuck-ton of array modus cards. The guy is just watching your Siladex shenanigans like it's the most fascinating thing in the world. He doesn't even offer to help or anything. Goddamn zealots.
Anyway,
The troll starts, shoulders tense as if he's still not sure he was allowed to look at you.
you must take corridor number 12. It's the only one of the only ones they didn't find. I'll leave in passage number 5 after I close yours and make preparations for my new plan.
He says, lowering his head solemnly.
Our paths will probably not cross again after this.
You nod gravely, suddenly feeling like a troll on a mission.
Now go.
He says, pushing the air with his hands as if trying to push you by proxy.
Hurry!
You nod again and nearly run for the stairs of your respite block. But then you suddenly remember one thing, run back to your thermal hull, wrench the door open, unlatch the lock on the back, slide belly down over the middle shelf, knocking all the chilled row cubes down the passage stairs, and trip your way down until you reach the card vault you abandoned there. You raise it in triumph, and then spot the green blood staring wide-eyed at you from beyond the frosty shelves. You feel an irrational need to justify your jumping around when you see his face, but he just smiles indulgently at you without a trace of judgment in his eyes, and you feel like an overgrown wriggler just kind of scurrying around in the middle of a life-and-death situation while a Threshercutioner is trying to save your life. So you crawl back with all the dignity you can muster, and give your new ally a very serious business nod before scurrying up the stairs for passage 12. There aren't really 12 passages in your hive. Most of them are older than the current Mother Grub, and you have no idea what the numbering scheme even is. When you built your hive, though, your nosy little minders went and chose a location for you where 6 hidden paths happened to stray close to each other, and when you were finished, they secretly modified your walls to connect to them. Passage 12 just happens to be the one cleverly hidden behind your wash basin. You run into your room, capture-log your desktop computer, and scoop up a handful of movies thrown carelessly on the floor. Your posters are shredded to pieces, your Recupercum is shattered, and there's slime all over the place. You trip and slide your way into your hygiene block to find your load caper overturned and your absolution trap roughly ripped off the floor, with pipe water spraying all over the walls and you in a misty shower. But the wash basin is still in place. It simply doesn't look big enough to conceal the passage even a young troll could squeeze through. In fact, it looks rather purposefully incapable of hiding anything. You pull down the window latch and it does exactly what it's supposed to do, which is fail to open. Only then do you turn back to the basin, carefully sliding it out along with a square section of the wall while the green blood hovers at the entrance. Vriska only wishes she had a hive as cool as yours. You climb down the rickety ladder and dust rains down on your hair as your new friend pushes the heavy basin back into place. The light is cut off, your slimy shoes splash onto a fairly sizable puddle when you reach the bottom, leakage from the nearby water trap, and you walk carefully on the uneven ground until your eyes adjust. Then you break into a run.